A cold-hearted billionaire sneaks after his quiet maid one night, convinced she's hiding something shady. But what he discovers in the shadows doesn't just shock him. It shatters his world, melts his frozen heart, and changes both their lives forever. This isn't just a story about rich and poor. It's about the hidden hero living right under your nose, and the moment one man finally opens his eyes to see her. Trust me, by the end, you'll be wiping away tears and asking yourself, who have I been missing in my own life? Stay with me, you don't want to miss this. Welcome to Penthouse Stories with Grandpa. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts on the story, as well as where you are watching from. Hey everyone, gather around because I've got a story for you that's going to touch your heart. It's one of those tales that reminds us how a single moment can flip our whole world upside down. You know, life has a funny way of showing us what really matters, especially when we least expect it. Let me take you back to the bustling streets of New York City, where the skyscrapers touch the clouds and everyone's always in a rush. In this concrete jungle, there lived a man named Victor Hale. Victor was the kind of guy who had it all, or at least, that's what the world thought. He was a tech mogul, building apps and software that changed how people lived. His name was splashed across billboards, and folks whispered about him in coffee shops. Rich, powerful, and yeah, a bit intimidating. He lived in this sleek penthouse overlooking Central Park, all glass walls and modern vibes. But inside that fancy home, Victor was kind of a lone wolf. He buried himself in work, meetings, and deals, barely noticing the people around him. Now, enter Lila Torres. She was Victor's housekeeper, the one who kept that massive place spotless. Lila was quiet, like a gentle breeze you don't really feel until it's gone. She showed up early every morning, with her hair tied back and a simple uniform that she rotated between a few outfits. No fuss, no drama, just hard work. She dusted the shelves, scrubbed the floors, whipped up meals that Victor barely touched, and slipped out before the sun dipped too low. To him, she was just part of the background, like the hum of the city traffic outside. But one evening, something caught his eye. It was around sunset, when the sky over Manhattan turns that golden orange. Victor was pacing the hallway, phone in hand, when he spotted Lila by the door. She had these two worn-out bags slung over her shoulder. One looked stuffed with food, the other with papers or something. She adjusted the straps, glanced around quickly, and headed out. Victor paused. Why did she always leave so early? What was in those bags? He'd never really thought about it before, but now it nagged at him like an itch he couldn't scratch. Hey, Lila, he called out, and she jumped a little. You're heading out already? She nodded softly, eyes on the floor. Yes, sir. Everything's done for the day. He eyed the bags. What's in there? She hesitated, shifting her weight. Just some personal stuff, sir, food and a few documents. No more details, just that polite tone. Victor let it go, but as he watched her walk down the street from his window, her steps quick and determined, his mind wouldn't quiet down. Who was this woman? She never complained, even when her paycheck was late once or her sneakers looked like they'd seen better days. That night, Victor tossed and turned in his king-sized bed. He had boardrooms to conquer, investors to wow, but all he could think about was Lila and her secrets. By midnight, he'd decided, tomorrow, he'd follow her. Not out of meanness, you see, just this burning need to understand. Sometimes, folks, curiosity is the first step to seeing someone for real. The next day dragged on. Victor wrapped up his calls early, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves he hadn't felt since his startup days. He wasn't used to tailing people. Usually, it was the other way around, paparazzi snapping pics of him at galas. But there he was, in a plain hoodie and jeans, slipping into his understated sedan. No limo tonight. He wanted to blend in. At exactly 5:55 p.m., Lila stepped out, bags in hand, same steady walk. She didn't hail a cab or hop on the subway right away. No, she walked block after block, weaving through the crowds on Fifth Avenue. Victor followed at a distance, his heart pounding a little. The city buzzed around them, street vendors hawking hot dogs, tourists snapping selfies, the honk of yellow cabs. But Lila kept her head down, focused, like she had a mission. She turned into a quieter neighborhood in Brooklyn, where the buildings got older and the streets narrower. Finally, she hopped on a bus rattling toward the outskirts. Victor tailed it carefully, merging through traffic. When the bus stopped in a gritty area with faded storefronts and kids playing on sidewalks, Lila got off and headed to a small building with a sign that read New Beginnings Center. Free lessons, free meals, free dreams. Victor parked across the street, peering through his tinted windows. What was this place? He leaned in closer, and what he saw next? Oh, it hit him like a wave. Inside, through the window, adults sat on rickety chairs, notebooks open. And there was Lila, not mopping or dusting, but standing at the front with a chalkboard. She was teaching, explaining how to fill out job applications, her voice clear and kind. A man in work boots nodded along, and a woman with tired eyes smiled as Lila helped her write. Victor's jaw dropped. This wasn't the quiet housekeeper he knew. This was someone alive, passionate. He watched for what felt like hours, his chest tightening. When class ended, Lila pulled out food from her bag, bread, water packets, and handed them out. People hugged her, whispering thanks. And Lila? She gave it all away, even though her own clothes were threadbare. Victor felt a sting in his eyes. Here he was, with fridges full of gourmet stuff he ignored, and she was sharing her scraps with strangers. No fanfare, no selfies for social media, just pure, quiet goodness. That night, driving back to his empty penthouse, Victor couldn't shake it. He'd thought he was following a secret, but really, he'd stumbled into a mirror. How had he missed this? Lila wasn't hiding wrongdoing. She was hiding a heart bigger than his empire. Folks, sometimes we think we're the heroes of our stories, but life shows us the real ones are the quiet folks changing the world one act at a time. And for Victor, this was just the beginning of his own change. All right, friends, let's dive deeper into this story. You know how sometimes you peek behind a curtain and everything you thought you knew shifts? That's what happened to Victor that night. He sat in his study back home, the city lights twinkling outside like distant stars, but his mind was miles away in that little center. He pulled up Lila's employee file on his laptop, basic stuff, no drama. Age 28, no family listed, hired through an agency. But now, it felt incomplete, like a puzzle missing pieces. He searched online for New Beginnings Center and found a simple website, a volunteer-run spot for adult learning, free classes on reading, forms, life skills. And there, in a photo, was Lila, beaming with students, a caption saying, "We don't need fancy things to help others, just a willing heart." Victor leaned back, whispering to himself, why hide this? It wasn't anger, it was awe. He'd passed her in hallways 100 times, never asking about her life beyond his walls. The next morning, the penthouse smelled of fresh coffee and eggs, but Victor barely noticed. He waited at the dining table, heart racing like a kid before a big game. Lila came in with his tray, same soft good morning, sir. But this time, he said, sit down, please. She froze, eyes wide. Sir. He softened his voice. Just sit. I need to talk. She perched on the chair's edge, hands in her lap. Victor took a breath. I followed you yesterday. I saw the center, the teaching, the food you shared. All of it. Silence hung heavy, then Lila's voice trembled. I didn't take anything from here, sir. I promise. He shook his head. I know that. I never thought you did. She looked up, confused. Then why? Because I couldn't wrap my head around it, he admitted. You have so little, yet you give so much. Why not ask for help? Tears brimmed in her eyes. It's not my place. People like me just get by. Victor pushed gently. Tell me about the center. And oh, did she open up? Her dad couldn't read well, simple forms stumped him. When her mom got sick, the hospital paperwork delayed treatment. They lost her because of it. Lila's voice cracked as she spoke, but there was fire too. That center's for folks like him, market sellers, laborious, elders. I teach them basics so they don't feel small. Victor felt his world crack open. This wasn't just kindness, it was a quiet battle against shame. He'd built fortunes on code, but Lila built hope with chalk and patience. As she left the room, he sat there, reflecting. How many people had he overlooked? In boardrooms, he commanded respect, but Lila earned it with heart. Days blurred into a new rhythm. Victor lingered in the kitchen, asking about her classes. Lila shared stories, a grandma learning to text her grandkids, a dad filling out school forms for his son. One morning, he found her at the table, not cleaning, but studying. Papers everywhere, glasses on her nose. Didn't know you wore those, he said lightly. She smiled shyly. Working on my certificate in community education. Nights after the center. He flipped through her notes, deep stuff on literacy and dignity. This is powerful, he told her. You're not just teaching words, you're giving people back their pride. For the first time, Their talks felt equal, like friends sharing dreams over coffee. But tension built inside Victor. He wanted to help fund classes, buy supplies. Rainy Saturday, he watched her leave with her umbrella, bags heavy. He didn't follow. Instead, he peeked into her small room downstairs, plain bed, a photo of her mom on the shelf. It felt sacred, like stepping into someone's soul. When she returned soaked, he met her with a towel. "If you could wish for one thing," he asked. "A bigger place where no one feels invisible," she whispered. Victor nodded. "What if I helped make that real?" Tears shone, but it was hope, not sadness. Folks, this is where the story heats up, when good intentions meet real fears. Victor thought money could fix it all, but Lila's heart had its own pace. And me? I'm telling you this because we've all been there, offering help but learning it's about listening first. Now, let's get to the heart of it, my friends. Stories like this aren't just about discoveries, they're about the messy parts, the doubts that make us human. Victor sat at breakfast the next Monday, waiting not for food, but for a chance to change things. Lila brought the tray, looking a bit weary. He motioned her to sit. "I meant it about helping," he said. "Let's build more centers. I've got the cash, connections, we could reach so many." She didn't jump at it. Instead, she folded her hands. "That's kind, but I'm scared." Victor blinked. "Of what?" "Of losing myself," she explained. "I've built this bit by bit, my way. If it's all yours, what happens to me?" Her words landed like rain on dry ground. Victor hadn't seen it that way. He thought she'd be thrilled, but she wanted partnership, not rescue. The house grew quiet after that. No more deep chats. Lila went back to her routines, leaving with bags each evening. Victor reflected alone, staring at the park below. He'd always fixed problems with checks and calls, but this was different. It was about trust, earned slow like a sunrise. One Friday, she knocked on his study door, envelope in hand. "I'm giving notice," she said softly. 2 weeks. Victor's heart sank. "Because of me?" "No," she smiled faintly. "Because you showed me I can dream bigger. Got a job at a local school, more time for the center." He saw it then. She wasn't fleeing, she was growing. "You changed me," she added. "Made me believe in my voice." Victor stood, voice thick. "I'll miss you." "Me too," she whispered. Those last weeks were bittersweet. Lila still polished the silver, brewed his tea, but with a new lightness, like a bird ready to fly. Victor watched, memorizing her ways, her hum while working, her gentle nods. The night before she left, he knocked on her door. Handed her a thick envelope. "Letters from me, recommendations, a personal note. Open later." She took it, eyes misty. No goodbyes, it felt like a see you soon. And folks, that's the turning point, when letting go opens doors. Victor felt empty, but also alive, like he'd learned to see beyond his towers. 2 months passed. The penthouse echoed without her. Victor buried in work, but her memory lingered. Then, an invitation arrived, cream envelope, no sender. New Beginnings Center, Literacy Night fundraiser. "You're invited." His hands shook. He'd sent anonymous gifts, donations, supplies, never claiming credit. But she knew. That night, he dressed simple, drove himself to Brooklyn. The center glowed, fresh paint, lanterns, laughter spilling out. Inside, folks from all walks, moms with kids, old-timers, workers. And Lila, in a soft blue dress, radiant. Their eyes met, she smiled warm, like old friends. The event kicked off. A kid read a story aloud, proud. An elder shared banking solo for the first time. Then Lila spoke. "I once thought I was just a cleaner. But someone saw more in me." Her gaze on Victor. "To the man who believed, thank you." Applause thundered. Victor clapped hardest, tears blurring. This was her win, but it stirred his soul deep. Friends, every good story has that moment where emotions crash like waves, raw, real, reshaping everything. After the speeches, Victor lingered as Lila mingled, hugging students, clearing cups with the same grace she once cleaned his home. She approached finally. "You came." He nodded. "Had to." She searched his face. "The donations, the gear, it was you." "Yes," he confessed. "Wanted you free, not obligated." Her eyes softened. "You gave me sight of my strength." Victor pulled a certificate from his pocket. "Partnership offer. You lead, my foundation backs. Full say." Lila unrolled it, breath-catching. New Beginnings Network, director, Lila Torres. She looked up, stunned. This is real. Absolutely, he said. Your vision, my support. And, dinner? As equals. Taze fell. Yes. Weeks later, the center expanded, new sign. Lila Torres Literacy Hub, co-founded by Victor Hale and Lila Torres, empowering voices everywhere. They stood outside, hands linked under the city sky. Lila whispered, I thought I'd always just serve meals. Victor smiled. Now you serve hope to thousands. Their bond grew, talks turning to laughs, shared dreams. Victor changed too. He volunteered, listened more in meetings, saw people beyond titles. But let's reflect. This started with suspicion, bloomed into respect. Lila taught Victor that giving isn't about stuff, it's about lifting without strings. He showed her dreams can scale with trust. Tension rose when worlds clashed, his wealth, her independence. The turning point. Her leaving, forcing growth. Now, the satisfying close, partnership, love, impact. Hey there, as we wrap this up, let's savor the ending, the kind that leaves you smiling, inspired. Victor and Lila's story didn't end with that certificate. It was the start of something beautiful. They built centers across New York, then beyond, simple spots where adults learned without judgment. Lila led classes, her story inspiring volunteers. Victor handled logistics, but always deferred to her. Their dinners turned to dates, walks in the park, quiet talks about life. Love snuck in gentle, built on mutual respect. One evening, under twinkling lights, Victor reflected. You remade me, Lila. Showed me wealth means nothing without heart. She squeezed his hand. And you helped me fly without clipping my wings. Together, they touched lives, a dad reading bedtime stories, a mom applying for jobs confidently. The message: greatness isn't cash or status, it's kindness, seeing folks truly. Sometimes, a peek into someone's world changes yours forever. If this moved you, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Hit subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Stay kind, folks, you never know whose life you'll touch.